minimizing charisma, maximizing intelligence, shooting someone in the crotch with a cannonball, thrust, propulsion. It's science-y.
Why you always gotta be blowing my spot up like that? There are my runes. There they are. I'm not mad. Science needs art and art needs science. They both need each other to function properly.
There are ways to figure out what the paper is really saying.
And then I'm ready to get on Twitter and yell at people about doing their own research on...
Oh, hold on there, sports fan.
Kyle Hill, everybody! He's the next generation of science communicator. I'm going to be too old at a certain point to do those terrible things to my body, and it'll be up to you.
He's got like a lion's mane. This guy's amazing. Kyle Hill.
I'm Boo Rambo.
The universe is indifferent to you. Whether or not you have amazing hair, the universe doesn't care.
How are trees pushing past this pressure limit? Ah! Behold, my balls. Now we're getting somewhere, but I still don't think it's worthy of G.R.R. Martin's suspender.
I'm totally right? Post up photos of my frickin' hair? Is that what you all want? No, you don't, weirdos.
Kyle Hill. Is your last name actually Hemsworth? What's going on?
Our resident Thor lookalike?
I prefer Black Friday Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, you know, if you need a haircut... No, of course not! We're not gonna send sharks with frickin' laser beams on their heads to an asteroid. We're gonna nuke it. You don't need Bruce Willis at all. Wrenched. Oh! Headshot! Oh! Kevin, turn on the monitor. Kevin, this transition better work. The blast doors can't... Kevin, turn it on. Kevin. Kevin, call his agent and have them call my agent.
Kyle Hill, happy birthday. Feliz Navidad.
I'm just a biologist. I don't know how this works. This is how you do science. Can I just grab it? Oh. Laws, corollaries. Bye-bye.
I know that global catastrophe isn't the most fun thing to think about all day unless you're me, so...
Are we gonna do some science, bro?
Lasers don't have that much momentum.
That's not how clockwise works.
Don't worry, you can do this even if you are not an AI.
It blinks the boundary layer around a person through a dynamic. And I guess it matters what kind of dragon we're talking. Realize here is that the bigger the thing does.
If this kite is completely inaccurate, I'm gonna kill this guy and tell him to his face. You're wrong about physics. Not enough lift force. Oh.
Nuclear metal donut thing with magnetically confined star-like plasma. The radiation flux in here alone is enough to cause instant death.
That's really funny. I like that idea.
Hey, look at me. I'm a streamer. I have a bedroom. We know anything with a decapitation hazard deserves to, yeah.
Ooh. Oh, that's good. That's fine.
Put it on PBS. I dare you. Yeah. What's that? Oh, you can't hear? Oh, sorry. Let me just, sorry, I had that turned down for a second. Let's just, Now, what was that? The stream intro's too long. Who said that? Well, who are they? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yeah. No, I think the main issue is that I'm talking to you on a Geiger counter that I got from Ukraine and not an actual phone. What? No, I won't burn down the house tonight. Maybe later. Not today, Satan. Maybe tomorrow. Bye. Perfect musical timing. Chat, welcome. Intro's longer than your hair. Chat, welcome to the revival of Office Hours, where good old Professor Kyle opens up his blast doors and allows all of you, members of the facility, members of the general public who avoided all of my warning signs somehow, in for the next hour or so as we explore and explain everything underneath the stars and beyond. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about what brought me back out from behind the restricted area over there you can see in the back, is Australians' recent Orphan source incident, which we will talk about at length. Was it dangerous? What happened? What is an orphan source? All that stuff. Yes, we will be making spider jokes. Yes, I will be trying my Australian accent, which is pretty good. If there's any Australians in the chat and I start doing it, and if it's not good, I'll stop. I respect you. Anyway, if you want to continue on this conversation after we are live, of course, I feel like that might be a little bit too loud. After we are live, of course, we can all head over back to the main channel where we have a new video about Dead Space up. Leave a comment there. Check it out. It's actually doing pretty well. People like planet cracking can also join the facility for members-only access to these amazing amenities. Videos early, behind-the-scenes photos and bloopers, membership to our private Discord. It's the only place you can ping me at any time of day. Or if you really, really, really want me to see something, you can try Super Chat, as you are seeing in the comments here. I can't promise that I'll get to everything while we are live, but I will see it, and it still goes towards our mission of edutainment and tainment. Welcome all of the professors that I noticed today. Dagon, Jason, Tactile, thank you for being here. I noticed a lot of new faces. We had a $20 donation from Liz Calvert. Said, my tiny human Alex just wants you to know that penguins poop so much you can see rings of their poop from space. Thank you. Pizza for breakfast with the 10. I missed the stream intro. Can you play it again, please? Sure. I'm kidding, chat. Do you know how much hydraulic power I waste just doing that back to back? It's because I like you. What happened to the orphan source's parents? We don't talk about that. Hello, First Live, says Anvin Hind Thum. Hello, mate. Did they find the nuclear piece of missing kit? Says the head, doing what I assume is an Australian comment. They did. Anyone else kind of hungry for soup? Cool. So, chat, as if you're hello from Denmark, if you're new to Office Hours, this is a science stream. I think I'm the only science streamer on YouTube. Today, for the next hour, we're going to spend the next hour. We're going to be talking about this orphan source, what happened, if it was dangerous, what to do if you ever encounter an orphan source. We're going through all of that. At the end, we'll be looking at some of your comments on the latest video, which is about Espacio Muerte, or Dead Space. I rate the Aussie accent not bad, mate. Says Garbagool. Ooh, interesting. And we'll be taking your comments and questions, super chats along the way. This is about me and you. Daniel Anderson says, I'm from Goiânia, and I can make my first article about, and I hope to make my first article about this incident because the media compares it to the cesium incident, and it's total nonsense, says Daniel. It was still cesium. But you're right, Daniel, in that Goiânia was it was a very different situation than what happened in Australia. Australia, nothing bad happened. Spoiler alert. Good spoiler. In Goiânia, 250 people were irradiated, 4 people died. If you want to check out a full, in-depth documentary-style video on that, we have that back on the main channel underneath the Half-Life Histories. AWD Turbo Power with the $50 donation. LOL, you have to read my words. Gotcha. Damn. I thought you died. No. Hello from Perth, Western Australia, land of the lost orphan source. This is Lachlan Bunyan. Lachlan. Sorry, I've never said that name out loud before. Lachlan, as I try out my Aussie accent today, let me know if it is bad. No, it's not orphan sauce, Audi. It's been a long time since Because Science says one for the team who thought I was dead. It's true. It's true. Watching from Sydney, this is Kyron Kelly. Oh, Kieran. You guys have fun names. It's been a long time since Because Science won for the team, but I have good news. if you've been missing, or if you like anything that I do, I have over 2 years worth of content for you to catch up on. Right-click my name down there that you see. Open a new window. Open tab, and new window. Open link in new tab. Tab, and just save it for later. Watching from Queensland, Australia, says Denethor Dahmer. Woo! Okay. A lot of Australians, a lot of people in the chat for the return. What do you say? Queensland here. When are we getting to the science then, says Brian Gregory. Brian! Right now. Hello. No comment? Still team mRNA? Yes, get vaccinated. Cool dude, 6472 with the 499. Kyle, glad to be part of the facility. Tell one of your Kevins I'm still waiting for my lab coat. Everything else, I got everything else but the coat. Yeah. And put some, like, ballistic weave in it. Yeah. Yeah, so I can shoot them in the butt with darts when they're not looking. Keeps them on their toes. Chat. I demand more Musquatch. No. Chat, this is Western Australia. Is Kyle impersonating Dr. Disrespect? A little bit, yeah. A little bit. Big influence on the stream. Now, chat, this is Western Australia. I will preface my comments on Australia by saying I want to go to Australia so bad. I've never been. I've never been to Australia. It's beautiful. The people are nice. Everything looks cool. I'm practicing an Australian accent for no good reason other than the fact that I kind of look Australian. Physics down under just works different, mate. It's beautiful. I want to go there. But the public, hi from Tampa, Florida, welcome. Anastasia Addison, beautiful name. Please visit. Come to New Zealand. This is Sam Black. We could do New Zealand as well. Cassowaries. So, the media recently got wind of this Orphan source incident in Australia, and it added to the kind of meme that Australia is very dangerous. And everything in Australia is trying to kill you, right? So I want to talk about this event and put it in its... as the resident YouTube nuclear guy, I want to put this into proper context. What it was, what it wasn't, and make sure we learn something along the way. Andrea says, if you had that accent, you'd be laughed right out of the pub. I didn't say it was great. Okay. So I just wanted to show you a nice picture of Australia. It sounded like I was doing a PowerPoint presentation for a second. This is where, basically, where the Orphan source event happened. Along a long stretch of road in on the way to Perth, where some of you live. And Australia's known for long, long, long stretches of roads. Also beautiful, yes. But on one of these stretches of roads, something of note happened. That is, this thing fell off of a truck. Hey, Kyle, please showcase your godly hair for me. Cheers from Poland, says Arthur. I mean, look. You're looking at it. Looking's for free. Touching, that'll cost you something. Now, as you can see, that's a 6mm by 8mm dimension there, which makes it smaller than an Australian coin piece, which means this is an extremely small object. And this caused international attention turned on a stretch of road in Western Australia. Now, what this little capsule you're looking at actually is a capsule for containing small sources of radiation. So these are all the various capsules that look like the capsule that was lost. They can contain any number of different radioactive elements. But that whole thing isn't that whole thing isn't the source of the radiation. No. In fact, if you look at the blue cylinder, the top right of your screen there, that's the radioactive part. So the radioactive part is actively shielded by the rest of the container. So, just getting everything straight before we continue on, they're looking for a container that had a very, very, very tiny, like less than a grain of Ross's sauce of radioactive material inside of a heavily shielded capsule. Now, why would you need something like this? Well, what turns out, well, you may not know this, but hundreds of thousands of nuclear sources are moved around the world every year. A lot of it is for nuclear medicine. One of the big ways that the public learned about what radiation was from when radium was discovered. And it was discovered that the radiation from radium, and radium is extremely radioactive, could be used to kill tumors. And so nuclear medicine today, using everything from tumor treatment to identification of cancer cells using nuclear markers in the bloodstream, we have a lot of sources moved around the world each year in containers like this, on roads like this, all over the world for the purpose of nuclear medicine. There's another, I'd say the other big way these nuclear sources are used, and the way that the source was used in this Australian case, is for testing stuff. So it's either calibrating radiation detectors, or it's testing welds, or the density of certain mechanical connections. Why? Well, you need with something like X-rays, for example, can go through stuff but get absorbed by your bones. But X-rays aren't as strong as something like gamma rays, and gamma rays can go even much further through materials. And when you're building, say, long sections of pipeline, and you want to check whether the welds on those pipes are complete and go all the way through, etc., you need the kind of photons that can penetrate deep enough through the material such that you can get a picture of the material just like an X-ray. So a lot of these nuclear sources are used as gamma X-ray machines. Wait, there's a car? Okay. Gamma X-ray machines, more or less. And so you need something very radioactive, can be cesium, iridium, cobalt, but you put it in a little capsule like this, you transport it around, and you can use it to image these welds. In this case, in the Western Australian case, so much radioactive stuff being used in medicine, says Firestalker, had a radioactive dye injected today to take a picture of my heart. Your explanations are excellent, Kyle, says Flynn Darby. That's why I'm here, my man. Firestalker, I hope your health is okay, but it's very coincidental that you had radioactive dye injected to take a picture of your heart today. I hope you're feeling okay. So nuclear medicine like that, it doesn't have to just be radiation to kill cells. It can be you put a radioactive tracer in the body such that you can get an image from that too. Okay? Only the kangaroos and the emus were at risk. That was a bad. I'm not going to do that. Strike that, reverse it. So in the Western Australian case, the source was a source used in calibrating radiation detectors. And what you see there is a breakdown of a Geiger counter. This is a Geiger counter that I bought from a Ukrainian company. They you can't buy them anymore, or at least at this time. I see them on eBay for a couple $1,000s, and I bought mine for like $200. Anyway, this has been with me to Chernobyl. Could your amazing hair shield you from a radioactive dose? Depends on the kind of radiation. My hair will stop alpha decay, but so will a piece of paper. But my hair will do more so. So this is a radiation detector, a Geiger counter, and I brought this with me to Chernobyl. And basically all it is that tube that you see in the bottom right. It is a tube that gets charged with electricity, and it can tell whether when the atoms in the gas in that tube get ionized. The ionization creates a small electrical charge. That electrical charge is transduced into a little click. So whenever, like, that's a physical process, whenever little bits of radiation, whether that be alpha, beta, gamma rays, hit the stuff in the tube, causes a small electrical charge. That charge becomes a click. Okay? So that's all this radiation detector is. If you play Escape from Tarkov, you will notice that this is the radiation detector they have on one of those rigs. It's a very common radiation detector in Ukraine. Wait, Kyle Hill live? I know. You're welcome. So, how did this thing fall off the back of the truck? Well, simple. When you're driving, hello from Ukraine. Slava. Привет? That's hello, right? Or is that Russian? Sorry. I was this old when I learned how a Geiger counter works as Hurricane Barca. I should say that there's many different kinds of radiation detectors. This is the most basic one. A gas that gets ionized, you detect the charge the charge change. That's it. Okay. So we know how that works. How do they know it went missing? Says Dave Breen with the 5. Good question. So it went missing after inventory was taken, after the truck carrying this equipment got to where it was going. And it knew that because radioactive sources like this are highly, highly regulated. But what happened was when driving hundreds of miles through the outback. Yeah, Privyet is high in Russian. What's Anyway, I learned a little bit of Ukrainian when I was there, and then I forgot all of it. When you're driving hundreds of miles through the outback, rattling, bumpiness, it loosened the bolts and the stuff that kept this source secure. And so it fell off the back of a truck somewhere. When it got to where it was going, they did inventory, they realized it wasn't there. That's bad. Privyet is how it's pronounced in Ukraine. All right. So they found out that it was missing. Thankfully, bad Aussie accent alert, says Rob Dannett. I haven't even really tried yet. We'll see. I'll try a good one. Thankfully, Chattathan Taylor Thomas. Thankfully, last week they recovered this source, and this is exactly what it looked like. Now, I'm talking about this today again because I want... Random FPV says, I'll let the accent slide this once. I'm an Aussie. It's not that bad. Anyway. This is the little capsule. Now, remember, this is smaller than... This is like a size of a quarter. It's very small. And so, having to cover hundreds of kilometers of road. The accent is accurate. Thank you. It's spot on. Thank you. Yes, it is that bad. Oh, it is bad. Guys, I'm going to need you to focus up for a second. How in the world did they find that? Says the head. Good point. So this was a good segue. This is literally like a nuclear needle in a haystack. Hundreds of kilometers that this could have been on in the outback of Western Australia. Things the size of a quarter. And I'm talking about this because I want to demystify whether or not this is dangerous and how you can find it. They found it. A lot of Australians in the chat. Well, I'll try to go full accent later, and then you can all judge me. For now, how do you find something like this if it's so tiny? Well, thankfully, nuclear radiation be radiating. And with something that's this radioactive that is used to image through things like metal pipes, with a sensitive enough detector, you can actually find even very, very small sources very quickly. And by very quickly, I mean forbidden 100 gram reference mass, says Ryu with the 5. Yeah, okay, we'll get to the safety. But they found this source, this orphan source is what it's called when a nuclear source, whether that be something like this, a nuclear bomb, something used in medical imaging, whatever, is no longer under regulation and poses an imminent threat. Okay. A lot of caffeine today. No, I'm just, hey, it's, office hours is back. This is a cup from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. My bona fides. They found this driving at 50 miles an hour on the highway. So we have detectors today that are sensitive enough that even driving at highway speeds down the road, once they passed it, tick, 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 and then they're like, okay, it's in the area. What you do then is you establish a perimeter that you know it's safe, the zone that is safe, and then you bring in more sensitive handheld detectors and you start to narrow in a game of hot or cold. So once they found this thing from the highway, driving at highway speeds with sensitive detectors, they took handheld radiation detectors and they tried to narrow in on this source. Once they found this source, they put a 20-meter exclusion zone around it. Now, of course, all the Australians in the chat know what 20 meters is. That's like 60 feet. It's like a third of a football field for all you Americans. Now, twinge with the 199, thank you. Now, we have to get to the safety part of this. Because you may expect someone like me to say, someone in some Reddit thread recently was like, this guy thinks all nuclear is all good all the time. If you watch my videos, that's not the case. But you have to call it like it is, and you have to go where the facts go. And the fact is, a orphan source like this is very dangerous. Yes, Kyle Chat wants to know still, will our butt cracks really be the end of all life on Enceladus? Because that's kind of awesome for a dirty boy and girl chat, says Shokte 10 with the 10. Yes, there's a good chance that your microorganisms on your butt could be lethal to organisms on Enceladus. That's why we have the Prime Directive, kind of. My friend Dr. Moo works at that department at JPL. She scrubs clean, like the Mars rover and stuff, and she makes sure it doesn't have any bacteria on it, or an acceptable level of bacteria on it. Anyway, chat, this source is dangerous. Sources like this are dangerous, and that's why a very rapid search had to begin. Now, chat, if you were right next to this thing, say, look at how the image is. Say I was standing directly over this thing and taking a close-up photo. Like I was kneeling down on the ground taking a close-up photo. Within 1 meter. It was estimated that this puts out about 100 millisieverts per hour of radiation. But Kyle, it's shielded. It is. But not from the gamma rays. Gamma rays can still penetrate a little bit of metal, like this. Gamma rays, you need a decent amount of lead or water. How did they lose this in the first place? Massive amount of negligence? No, Hugo. We'll get to the context of losing orphan sources in a second. But this is 100 millisieverts per hour. Now, pure context. This is an image, the top right, is an image of this exact same Geiger counter. That is a picture of me with the Geiger counter around my neck when I'm inside the sarcophagus at Chernobyl. Inside of the giant dome. Yes, I really went there. We have a whole series of videos, 3 of them so far, back on the channel in their Expedition Chernobyl series. But that is a photo of me checking the dose rate inside of the sarcophagus where the exploded reactor is. Where I am. My headphones just turned off. Where I am close enough. I'm close enough to the sarcophagus that I could hit it with. I could hit it with my Geiger counter. Look at the number, chat. That is 20 microsieverts per hour. Now, I don't know how many of you can do easy math like that off the top of your head, but micro is 1,000 times less than milli. So it goes sievert, 1,000 times less is a millisievert, 1,000 times less than that, or 1,000,000 times less than 1 sievert is a microsievert. So why does it say 100 right there, says Jared Robinson? This is the radiation coming out of the lost Orphan source, or the Orphan source. That's redundant. In Australia, that was recovered. That's 5,000 times higher, chat. Okay? So giving you context here. William, we'll get to that. For context here, getting right up next to this thing, saying grabbing this thing, putting it in your hand, is hundreds or thousands of times more dangerous to you than it was for me standing inside of the sarcophagus at Chernobyl. Okay? So, I say that to say this. That would probably hurt, right? Says Minty Julep. If you put something like this in your back pocket, say you were walking around the outback, you saw a shiny piece of metal, you put it in your pocket, you walked home, took you a couple hours. This could, in the worst case scenario, lead to the removal of your leg. Or kill you. Scott Stefanatz with a 199, the same type of source that killed Douglas Crowfoot. Yes, we have another video on the channel about Douglas Crowfoot, who took a source of iridium that was used to image pipelines, exactly the same way that this was used, and it's speculated that he put it in his front shirt pocket for a couple hours, and he died after that. That's a lot spicier than I thought it'd be. Damn, I know. So this is why Orphan sources are extremely regulated and dangerous. So we can use them to do very critical things in nuclear medicine, in infrastructure. But if you do not handle them properly, you could seriously, seriously injure yourself. Now that context also needs this context. The source of this one was cesium-137. Drop and run, exactly. So, in a situation like this, if you were able to find something like this, first you call the authorities, who will call the IAEA or some relevant government organization that can deal with this kind of thing safely. But if you were to these are, hopefully you never will. But if you do, and we'll cover this in the next Half-Life history, would it glow in the dark? No. Says Loki. I'm getting off track. But Loki, nothing nuclear glows in the dark by itself. There's no raw nuclear metal that glows. There's glowing paint. There's glowing oxides. But nothing is glowing by itself. Something else is getting energized and releasing light. Nothing glows by itself. Nothing subcritical. Because if it goes critical, then you get that blue flash. So encountering an Orphan source, is there a way to detect the danger without tools? Says no one. No. That is the scary part. If something, and alluding to our next Half-Life history, if you pick up a piece of metal and it is oddly hot to the touch, drop and run. Derry Dobby with the 20 depends on if the 100 millisieverts per hour is measured on contact from 1 meter, etc. Point source of intensity drops in an R-squared relationship. If this was on contact measured walking nearby, it may not be that bad, but holding in your hand would be bad. Derry, That's exactly what I was going to say. TDS. There are only 3 rules you got to follow in the presence of a radioactive source. Time, distance, shielding. That's it. As you see, this dose is expressed as a rate. So the longer you are in its presence, the more source than you get. Distance. As Derry points out, anything that emanates out in all directions, basically a sphere out in all directions like light from a light bulb, decreases exponentially, or according to the square of the radius of the square of the distance you are from the point source. Because that drop happens so quickly, 2 times further away is not half as much, it's 1/4 as much. And then 1/9 as much. Inverse quadratically. Because of that, every step you are away from a source like this decreases your equivalent dose a lot, very quickly. And then shielding. Radiation can be dangerous, but it still has to go through stuff to get to you. It depends on what the source of radiation is. If it's alpha radiation, which is basically a helium nucleus, it's big and heavy. It gets stopped very easily. It can be stopped by your hand. It can be stopped by a sheet of paper. Beta radiation is basically electrons or positrons. They go through an order of magnitude more material. And then gamma rays go through pretty much everything without significant shielding. Neutrons as well. Neutrons are very hard to stop. So it depends what is coming out of the nuclear source. But anything you get between it and you will be of your benefit, to your benefit. Time, distance, shielding. Now, when I said you're likely to never encounter an orphan source like this, that is true. But that is not to say that this doesn't happen more frequently than you think it does. All over the world, since the bodies that be have been tracking it, about 1 orphan source is lost somewhere once every 3 days. A small percentage of them are from active theft. The majority of them, 65%, are from negligence or some sort of misplacement or accident like this, and the rest are unaccounted for. If you pick this thing up, would it feel hot? I don't know in this case. It would be just sitting under the Australian sun. But orphan sources happen more often than you think. And that is why these have to be so highly regulated. If someone picks this up, it could severely injure them or kill them, depending on, again, TDS. If you, as Derry pointed out, if you were standing 2 meters away from this and you walked past it and you just went, whew, you would be completely fine. But if you picked it up and put it in your pocket and took it home, you could be severely injured and injure those around you. So these have to be very, very well regulated. Now, think of this, the scale of things here. In the United States, millions of sources move around. You know, not new produced every year, but just move around for nuclear medicine, etc., etc. Like 2 million or something. And so having less than 1,000 lost per year, for example, is still, and many of them recovered, less than 1,000 of them lost per year is still less than 1%, right? So in nuclear safety, you have to be so regulated and so safe, because even though the numbers are low, they can have big impact, especially on public awareness about the dangers or not of nuclear objects, nuclear medicine, and nuclear power. Today's lesson, you see something, you say something. TDS. So, to recap, Orphan source fell off the back of a truck in Western Australia. I haven't done my accent yet. It was particularly hot, and you wouldn't want to pick it up. But within a day or so, they used sensitive detection equipment to find it. Just driving down the highway. What if you ate it? Says Retro Gamer. You'd probably die. Or you'd get radiation poisoning for sure. Depends. So time distance shielding. Eating the worst case of any radioactive source is getting inside of your body. Because it stays in your body for the most time that you can't control, with the least distance from your internal organs, with the least shielding from your internal organs. The people who got hurt in Goiânia by cracking something like this open and getting the powder inside, cesium-137 powder inside, and rubbing it on their bodies, the people who got hurt the most had some ingested. And what's even worse is that a lot of radioactive materials act like the metals that your body needs. So your bones will take up radium thinking it's calcium because they have the same number of electrons in their orbital shields. Shields? Shells. Orbital shells. It's been a while since I took chemistry. So ingesting radioactive source, always the worst case scenario. Landslide, a source like this is used to calibrate radiation detectors and image infrastructure, like pipes used for oil pipelines and stuff, to see if you need a lot of energy to create like an X-ray through the metal and get an image. So when you approach the source, you get exposure, acceleration, microsieverts per hour squared. So there could be some terminal approach velocity, says Talia Blackrose with the 499. I like that. I like where your head's at. You could come up with a terminal approach equation. Working on my entrance exam for the MA in gastronomy, says Chef Julie. Came here for the educational background sounds, stayed for the accents. I haven't... Okay, so chat. Oh, the truck. Yes. So Ken, the truck. They didn't discover that this was missing for a couple of days. But when they did, they recovered it within a day or so. Within a day or so. Okay. So now here we go. So now that you've learned TDS, now that you've learned why you have to take orphan sources so seriously, now that you know that how dangerous they are depends on what is in them, how long you're near them, etc., etc., and that they can become attractive nuisances. They can be shiny pieces of metal that glow on the inside and a kid wants to crack them open. Now I think you have a better understanding of what Australia was trying to quickly deal with. And so now I'm nervous. Flynn Darby with the 499. How large was the radiation detector used? I heard you mention a Geiger counter earlier, but was that the type of detector deployed? Says Finn Darby. I don't know. I don't know what specifically they used, but radiation detectors never get that big. Even the old ones that I saw in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant that they have are about the size of a shoebox, and those are the big ones. Really fancy radiation detectors can be tens of thousands of dollars today, but they're no bigger than like an iPad. That's a bad comparison. They're about kind of like this shaped. You know, they're not that big. They're kind of like a large old Nokia phone kind of thing. They're not that big, but I don't know what specifically was used to detect it from the road. So now chat. Now that we know all that I think right now you know everything that you're going. I'm nervous. Twinge with the 199. Now that you know, I think all you need to know about the Australian orphan source, for the next part of our podcast here, it's going to open up to all of you. So if you have any questions, comments, things to say about this accent that I'm doing. Your time is now. I felt nervous. It wasn't that good, I know. You were challenging me. My headphones turned off again. It's not that bad. So, chat. F. I got there. So, chat. This week at the facility, of course, we had the opportunity to do a sponsored video with Dead Space. Surprisingly good accent? Yeah. Could you do a Steve Irwin type series with only an Australian accent, says Josh M. Look, mate. The only thing I was put here on Earth for was one thing. Wildlife conservation. And I'm gonna make as much money as I bloody can, mate. I don't give a rip whose money it is. I'm gonna put every dollar and cent back into our oceans for clean water, back into wildlife conservation. Isn't she a beauty? We had the opportunity to work with Dead Space Remake for a full Science of Dead Space planet cracking episode. Please go check that out. Turned out really well. Nailed it. Is there any residual radiation, says Kez C. So for a source like was found in Australia, that is cesium, which has cesium-137, an isotope that has a half-life of about 30 years. So if left unaccounted for, it would be potentially dangerous for decades. Yes. Travis Gardner with a 10. Get really confused about radiation measurements. I watch you when plainly difficult and the measures seem to change, says Travis. They do change. Pretty good considering your normal accent, says Ryan Smith, an Australian with the $2. That's validating. That means I'm an Australian. Do you want David Attenborough impression? Here we have the chat in its natural habitat. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so radiation measurements are confusing, and there are a lot of them, and that is because, Travis, it depends on what you are in reference to. Full body dose and dose to organic tissue, etc., like absorbed dose of radiation is measured with different units than just pure radiation. So radiation in curies, which is a unit that makes the original unit of radiation, becquerels. I hate saying that word. That's the original unit of radiation. So you'll see it as BQ, and that's disintegrations per second. But it turns out that most radioactive sources put out so many disintegrations per second that saying like 10 BQ doesn't mean anything, because a little bit of uranium will put out, billions per second. So the Curie is a simplification of the BQ, and some units are outdated, like rads. We don't actually use rads to measure stuff anymore. So it depends. Pure radiation or radiation absorbed dose, which we use sieverts for. Sometimes REM. Yeah, so there's a bunch of units, and it is confusing. But thank you for pointing that out, because I should be more diligent about explaining to you why the units are being used. Don't you think they spotted the fallen off container on the road near it? Says Rowan Brand. No. This thing was the size of a nickel, or a quarter. Gaming channel? I do have a gaming channel. Says one for the team. One for the team. It's not up to me to help you catch up. You thought I was dead. The rest is on you. ANSTO have pictures on Facebook of the detector they used to find it. This is Randall Cliff with the Australian $10. So let me do something else, chat. Let me try something else out. Randall Cliff. Let's try this out. This might go horribly wrong. Okay. So, ANSTO, Facebook, detector. Australia's only multi-purpose nuclear reactor, Lucas Heights. Something like that. Man, I hope something terrible doesn't pop up. Why would it, Kyle? Don't worry about it. That's not what I wanted. Yes. That's not what I wanted. That is not what I wanted. Randall, I don't think this is going to work out. You sound more like an Aussie when you're not trying to be Aussie. I know. See, I have to settling. You got to settle into it. Oh, this looks right. This looks right. You kind of sound like Shad from Shadiversary to my Greek ears. No, I don't. Yeah, I guess I do. I don't have a Facebook account. Well, I'm not logged into Facebook for anything ever, so... Oh, wait. Here we go. Meet the team who found the radioactive capsule within 2 hours of hitting the ground in the Pilbara region. So... there you go, chat. Dream team, baby. Look at that. Oh, I think this firefighter's got a grill on him. What a champion. Just don't overpronounce your R's and you'll have it. Thank you for being my favorite science YouTuber, says T-Bone in the chat. I love the whole Maine blowing in the breeze vibe. Okay, let me get it better for you. Okay. So these are the heroes, chat. These are who we have to thank. That's a large detector. And see, he's reading the information that's coming to an iPad like that. And then, I don't know if that's specifically a detector. That looks like ranging equipment. You know? That looks like, in my engineering days, that looks like radiation, surveying equipment. Oh, there you go. I guess you were right. My bad, Randall. Yeah, there you go. The Chorus 360. What is it? Together with our other agencies, successfully located and retrieved a radioactive source no bigger than a 10-cent piece in the Aussie outback. Our team used a customized version of our radiation detection and imaging... Oh, sorry, chat. The device traveling in a vehicle at 70 kilometers an hour found the source roadside on the Great Northern Highway near Newman. This outcome is a testament to Australia's world-class nuclear capabilities and expertise, and we're proud to have been involved. Nailed it! What bloody champions, eh? Sorry, I needed to recalibrate my voice. That was pretty good, wasn't it? Come on. So that is the detector. Yes. Derry Dobby, 20. You have 4 cookies. All emit the same amount of radiation as alpha, beta, gamma, and neutron. You have to eat one, hold one in your hand, and put one in your pocket, and throw one across the room. What do you do to minimize harm? That's a great exam question. That is a great nuclear physics 101 question. So I imagine you're challenging me. No, don't worry, Chrissy, I saw you. I imagine you're challenging me. So let's see, because you have some knowledge. All emit the same amount of radiation in alpha, beta, gamma, and neutron. You have to eat one. I would eat alpha. I'd eat alpha, hold beta in my hand. I wouldn't want to. I'd put... Oh, I don't know. Oh, no. I'd put gamma... I'd eat alpha, put gamma in my hand, put beta in my pocket, and throw neutron across the room. Was I correct, Derry? Get back to me. Preferably in the form of money. That's the Chorus 360 directional gamma ray imaging system. It's Aussie made, says Jay with the Australian $10. What amazing. What beauties they got over there. What would kill you faster, licking the elephant's foot or licking the Orphan source? It says Crispy, one of my professor emerites at the facilities. What's really dangerous Oh, did I get it wrong? Anyway, what's really dangerous about Chernobyl is that it's gross contamination. The contamination is not a single source. It is in the dust, in the dirt, in the wind. Well, it's carried by dust, but you know it's in the ground. Some concrete is activated. It's like a dusting of radioactivity that's everywhere, blown around by the environment, by wind and rain, etc., etc. So what was I getting? So licking the elephant's foot would end up probably putting a lot of radioactive dust and small bits of material into your body, which would be very dangerous. So I'd rather lick a clean orphan source. Look, I'm not a nuclear expert, chat. I just make videos about it for a living sometimes. So I want to know if I got that alpha beta. I may be wrong about eating the alpha. Yeah, no, okay, yeah. Switch those. I switched, yeah, I was thinking the wrong thing. I put the alpha in my pocket and eat the beta. I think. Wait. I don't know. I believe in you, Kyle. You can pull off the accents. It's Daniel Lage. Chat. Peer review. As we are Oh, I guess I could just stop the music. Derry Dobby answering us with the $50 donation. Derry, I appreciate it. I got this wrong the first time, too. Answer is hold alpha in your hand. Okay. Because it's the least penetrative, and it won't go past your skin. I'm guessing. Never eat higher QF gamma. Well, never eat alpha. Higher QF gamma, eat that. Low probability interaction beta put in your pocket. And clothing shields neutrons across the room. Wait, the way you wrote this is really confusing to me. Clothing shields. Throw neutron across the room, hardest to effectively shield. Okay, so put beta in your pocket, clothing shields that. Put alpha in your hand, and eat gamma. Oh, okay, yeah. So you eat the gamma, because even though that'd be very bad, it's going to pass through most of you without... Okay, yeah. Okay, so the Bragg peak of gamma radiation, it's not going to deposit the majority of its energy inside of your body. That's why we use particle accelerators to do cancer therapy, because those larger particles bump into stuff in your body and deposit the majority of the energy in your body, in your internal organs and that kind of thing, or inside of tumors. So, yeah. Eat the gamma, because it'll pass through. Low probability of action. Put the beta in your pocket, because clothing shields it. Are you sure about that? Well, I guess. I guess you know. Throw neutron across the room. Put alpha in your hand. I think I'm right. Should have used commas, says Derry. Derry, thank you for the 50 and for your enthusiasm. That is a great a whole radioactivity course could be taught around that question. Rob Denat, does all gamma radiation shine blue? No, it doesn't shine at all. We have Jason LaRose, who is talking on a banana phone in his profile pic with a $100 donation. I'm about half an hour behind catching up. Just want to say hi and thanks for the Half-Life History series. Good stuff. Appreciate you. And I appreciate, of course, everyone who watched the latest episode about planet cracking in Dead Space. Just want to point out some very smart boys and bays in the comments. Because I always look, chat. Alpha gets stopped by your hand. Beta gets stopped by your clothes? I guess. Depends on the thickness of your clothes. But you wouldn't want beta inside your body, that's for sure. Anyway. We'll be playing Dead Space on the gaming channel on Friday, chat, it looks like, when I polled all of you. Okay, so as an asteroid, I can confirm there are lots of us and we are super valuable. Chat, I was talking about the feasibility of planet cracking, basically going through the mechanics and the economy of asteroid mining, which could literally eliminate scarcity. There's so many precious materials in space that we could build anything if we could effectively harvest it, even something like a D-star. Eat gamma, most penetration, least lethality, yes. Hold alpha, can't penetrate skin, most internal lethality, as we said with the Bragg Pete thing. Beta in your pocket, because it can't penetrate clothing. Throw neutron. Don't mess around with that noise. I get it. I was right for the wrong reason. I had something backwards in my head. That doesn't help me on the test. I have nothing interesting to say. Just want to give you some money, says Evan with the 5. Appreciate it, buddy. Look up the last 7 minutes of ABCs of radiation on YouTube, says Ronald with the 5. I'm getting so sidetracked, chat. But it's named alpha, beta, gamma. If you want to remember this as just a little rule of thumb, A, B, G, but it's in alphabetical order, increasing penetrative ability. So alpha's the least, gamma's the most. Anyway. I love the idea of a vehicle being a kilometer long in Dead Space, like the Ishimura. That's so fantastically unfathomable. Aircraft carriers are getting pretty big these days, but I agree. The benefit for something like the Ishimura is that it could be built in space with no gravity, no relative gravity, and so it would be much easier to move all that heavy material around, and you wouldn't have the same mechanical, structural strength concerns that you usually would. Late to the stream, but thanks for the content. Throw that neutron away, says the Chipmunk with the €2. I mean, the correct answer, really, chat, is to stay away from any radioactive source that you don't have to. And that's another principle that we'll go through on the next Half-Life history. It's called ALARA, what I was taught in Chernobyl, and that is as low as reasonably achievable. If you need to be near a radioactive source, make your dose as low as reasonably achievable. It's impressive Kyle went to space just to make this video. Dedication is insane based. I love these goofy but informative videos. Hey, me too. The Expanse shows some interesting examples of how belt mining and such economy could work. Also, we could really use a better way of getting out of our planet before we try to bring anything on it. I've seen quite a few videos in partner with the new Dead Space, but I really enjoyed this one. There's real information in it, not just a lazy cash grab. Says Heavy Impact Gaming based. Justified Poop with the $5 says, when was the last time you pooped yourself? And was it justified? Last July. First time I've caught you live. I love your content! Says No Name with the 5. No Name. I appreciate it. Matthew Napolitano with the 5. Mine space for infinite resource and then build a Dyson sphere for infinite energy. I'll take my Nobel Prize now. Says Matthew. Matthew, unfortunately, both of those things have already been theorized about and discovered, and you won't win a Nobel Prize for that. That's just a good idea. Now, Ethol can teach me science anytime. Ha ha ha, says Melanie Cravens. Chat, what do we talk about today? More importantly, Twinch, thank you. Thank you. We'll get back to Elden Ring a little bit later. Next week or something. Chat, what did we learn about today? We learned that I can do a decent accent when I'm not trying to. Okay. So, last week, on the way down a Perth highway in the outback. Australians lost a source of radiation that is usually used for imaging stuff like pipelines and calibrating nuclear equipment. It was later discovered days after that the capsule had fallen out of the back of the truck, probably due to screws and stuff unscrewing themselves from the vibrations from the car. Falls out. Within 2 days of figuring out that it was gone, they located it like the real bloody champs that they are. But orphan sources can be extremely dangerous. And that's why you need to learn, if you're going to be in the vicinity of anything like that. TDS, Alara, we know all this now. And now for another challenge. Adam Frost with a New Zealand 1699. Why is alpha less dangerous than neutron radiation? Wouldn't alpha be heavier particles? I gotta work on that one. I gotta get myself into the headspace of like what we do in the shadows. Why is alpha less dangerous than neutron radiation? Wouldn't alpha be heavier particles? I feel like that was better. Alpha particles are big, and they are heavier. You are correct. But being big and being heavy, they interact very readily with stuff. And so they get stopped just at the surface of your skin. And if they get stopped at the surface, a lot of alpha radiation could give you burns and stuff. But unless it's penetrating your body and damaging your internal organs, that's why it's not nearly as dangerous, because it gets stopped by pretty much everything. Kyle, I want to let you know your Half-Life Histories series has resparked my love of nuclear physics. I've been contemplating working at my local nuclear power plant as an operator, says Zelkorian. I'm proud of you. I'm dang proud of you. Chat, I will say, chat, that the next Half-Life Histories in the series is on the way. And I am looking to do more of them this year. The next, and I thought this timely because the next Half-Life Histories will be about an orphan source. One of the most famous orphan source stories. We did the most famous one, the accident in Goiânia, Brazil. But we're doing the second most famous one as well. So this has all been on my mind. No Name with the 5. I've learned a lot about nuclear watching your videos. I'm curious what you think about molten salt reactors. I gotta do a video on on molten salt reactors because I get a lot of questions about it. Sorry, I'm not going to take the time to do everything here now. Autistic Novice with a 10. I know this sounds silly, but what is the science fiction behind how and why kryptonite affects Kryptonians the way that it does? I don't know. I feel like a crazy person switching in and out of accents now, but as long as you think it's good, that's all that matters to me. How kryptonite works. I mean, I'm assuming it's some form of radiation from the actual mineral. But why it makes... So, chat. One thing... yeah, the wind scale... Rob, any Half-Life story is going to come from incidents in my homeland of the UK. Yes, the wind scale fire is on my... list. So, kryptonite, if it emitted radiation and made Kryptonians feel weak and stuff, one of the main symptoms of acute radiation poisoning is lethargy and weakness. And this presents later. Oh, and it presents immediately and then later on. So one of the sinister things about radiation poisoning is that you feel immediately, well, within a couple of hours, you feel super, super terrible, and then you get better. And you feel fine. And then you die. Or you get much worse. And and then you recover. And that's because full body, big dose, full acute radiation poisoning, you immediately get nauseous, you feel weak, you get sick, diarrhea, vomiting, dizziness, confusion. And you think that's the worst of it. But what has happened is a lot of the rapidly dividing cells in your body start to die. And that includes the cells that moderate your immune system, like white blood cells, which are made in the marrow of your blood, which in the highest doses can turn to actual mush. And so it takes a while for your body to realize that it can no longer fight off infection, etc., etc. In the highest doses I've seen, you have literally no white blood cells left. And so you initially feel like crap, like, oh man, stomach lining, because those are rapidly dividing cells. Then you get better as those initial symptoms go away, but what you don't know is that your immune system is already dead. And then the next thing that comes along knocks you down and you don't get back up. Dying of it's like HIV or AIDS, which also knocks out your immune system, and it's not that's not what kills you. It's the next thing. It's a cold. It's a fungal infection, something like that. I said, was your poop justified? It says justified poop with the $2 donation. Like it made sense when I pooped myself last July. Like I get why that happened. Ronald Royson with the $5. I nominate Professor H.K. to be head scientist of nuclear research at Aperture Laboratories. Would Arya be jealous of GLaDOS? No, GLaDOS would be jealous of Arya. Have you seen her arms lately, mate? She's bloody huge. Justified how? I don't need to explain why I pooped myself. Okay? My dad was a Navy nuke for 8 years and worked at a nuclear power plant for 30 years. His feedback from your videos is generally, good work, minor issues, but nothing worth quibbling about. You're good. It says Bomberman. I hear that a lot. I just ordered a TA-89 titanium, says Jake. Nice. I get a lot of feedback from people who actually work in the nuclear industry. I've been stopped before by people who operate on nuclear submarines and things like that. And they generally say the same thing too, where there's some minor things that I'm misrepresenting or get wrong, but generally I'm providing good information. And I'm never going to be perfectly accurate in the eyes of experts because I'm not an expert. I don't work in the industry. But as long as I'm not triggering them to say no, you got to stop, or you're not doing this right, or you're not doing it justice, that makes me feel very validated. It makes me feel like I'm not getting things totally wrong. I want to portray things in an accurate light. I work on Navy submarines. Nice. Of course you get the minor stuff wrong, but that's because what you just said. Well, yeah. I'm not an expert. So, chat, the science communication tightrope walk is best summarized like this. Always be accurate, but never be wrong. Always be as accurate as you can be, but never be outright wrong. Right. So I try to be as accurate as possible. I may leave out caveats or little minor information about how things work in certain situations or not, but most of that time is because we don't have a whole semester to go through every single case of, XYZ, ABC, So I know I'm never going to be completely 100% correct, but I'm not wrong. That's the point. As an Australian, you need to put more O's in your nice to sound right, like no ice, for example. I mean like this, mate. As an Australian, you need to put more O's in your nice to sound right. Nice. Nice. How about that? Is that alright? Also, getting everything perfectly accurate would end up hurting the understanding of the average person. It's the lies to children issue of physics. Yeah, I mean, if your physics teacher told you every single caveat and every single case where like this law isn't actually a law and this thing and that, it's way too complicated. That was amazing. I'm in love with you, says Kate Newcomb. Kate, you sound like Andy Samberg. No, I do not. Well, maybe a little bit, but no, I don't. Chat, I'd like you to notice that we're going way over time than we usually do. That's because we're having a good time. Right? It's getting there, says Lord Shadow Ryu. Hey, Mr. Hill, what do you think of The Last of Us show? Says JD Coot. It's great. It's really, really good. Every part of The Last of Us TV show is either a perfect recreation of a scene in the game or a change that makes narrative sense and is really good. Episode 3 was one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen in my whole life. I'm still crying about it. Last episode had two or three scenes that were perfectly adapted into live action. It's really good. I'll say this, chat. I'll say this, chat. The Last of Us TV show is the best video game adaptation of all time. Certainly TV show, easily. I noticed that just about everyone who is watching is gone, or the majority of people watching is gone. So chat, we learned about Orphan sources today. I realized that it may have been a little cringy hearing me do Australian on and off for the last hour and a half. But I appreciate all of you that have been here. I appreciate all of you that have been here for the revival of office hours. I want to be more consistent about it. I want to do every Tuesday going forward. Every Friday, we'll hop on the gaming channel. We'll do something interesting there. A lot more to come at the facility. And if you want to join us here for what we do, what we explain, how we have fun, how we game, air care tips, that's patreon.com/Kyle Hill. Join the facility today, like all these lovely professors who work here, and check out this weird light that we can't seem to fix. Wherever you are, however you're feeling, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Until the next time I see you, whether it's the next live stream here, next gaming stream at the gaming channel, next video, next Half-Life history, and inside the facility, inside the Discord, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, as I already said. And remember, be nice to each other. Because that's all we got. Okay, take care now. Bye. That was good, Kevin. Come on, that last bye was pretty good, don't you think?